Hi, welcome everybody. Excited to be here tonight. I have a fantastic panel, all experts in their field, and I think you're going to really enjoy tonight's conversation. First, I'm going to just introduce myself as principal of the Bromley Group. We are a public relations, social media agency.
The best one.
Well, I don't know about that. We have a pretty good one on the panel, but thanks. And we have done lots of campaigns in intimate apparel, home, footwear, accessories, and beauty. And many of the people here on the panel I've known, and the work that they do, and have tremendous respect for them. And you will too. So tonight we're here to talk about PR and the bottom line. The bottom line is important to all of us. Return on investment is very important to all of us. And I think one of the hardest things to measure is the impact of public relations. I think we're all familiar with it from the brands that we hear about, but sometimes we hear about the brands and we don't always know, how did I hear about that? So one of the things we want to be able to do tonight is talk to you a little bit about how we do what we do, and also how to measure that. Some of the things that I think people need to think about is setting specific goals. How do you measure quantity and quality? How do you integrate social media, which has become such an incredible part of the public relations communication process and really changed the entire landscape of public relations in a very short period of time? And you also want to ensure that your top management understands and appreciates the value that you're bringing to the bottom line, and how to measure that, and how to feed them the measurement so that they appreciate it and understand it. And those are some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. Whoops, I went a little too fast. There are three levels of measuring PR. One is the output. That is the content and the reach, your frequency of people coming to your brand, the number of visits, your prominence within the social community, the contacts, the tone of the words that you use and how you phrase your brand, how you communicate your brand, the message impact, and there are various ways to measure that, and also your share of voice. And that's measured now today through various methods in terms of the number of people that come to your site, how you can read that, what they're saying about your brand. There's so much intelligence, there's so much information now that's available to brands online that it's really, really important to be keyed into all those channels of information. The outcomes and the perception of your knowledge, the opinions, and the attitudes. What is the awareness? How do consumers comprehend your brand? What is the credibility of what you are saying about your brand? Credibility today is so important because the consumer is completely in the driver's seat. She has access to all kinds of outlets of voice. And what you say about your brand and the credibility of your brand is so key and essential. And then in the end, the business results and the added value. You can measure revenue, you can look at your content, you can evaluate your reputation, you can look at your market share if you're a public company and you can kind of see where you are. You can also look at your market share through other industry things like NPD and that type of measurement. You can look at your stock prices. Employee retention is also very much a part of the result of your success, really. And in terms of purchasing and influencing the purchasing. So we're actually going to touch on all of these different topics today, and I'm really, really excited about the panel that we have. First, I got it. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm sorry. We're not all so when it comes to technology. I can read it, but I don't know how to run it. I'd like to introduce tonight our panel. First, I'd like to introduce Megan Crum. Megan has been an editor in the field for over 12 years. She was the accessory director at InStyle and W Magazine. She has worked with Harper's Bazaar. She's worked with W Magazine for over 10 years. Her company is a very unique, it was recommended to me by actually Laurence, and is a very unique new model in the world of public relations and marketing. And she has a team of experienced fashion editors that are very experienced in technology and that puts together editors, brands, lookbooks, and creates access to information that's very efficient and easy to use. And I think that is really, really important today. Editors, who was telling me, was it you, Megan, I think, how many brands that you covered? 4,000. 4,000 brands, okay, 4,000 brands. Just an accessory. So you can imagine if you're an editor and you're dealing with editors, the amount of information that they're having to go through. So making your information as succinct and easy as possible is really, really very important. And next I'd like to introduce Maureen Stabno. I think most of us all here know her very well, and I'm happy to say she's a member of our board of directors at the Underfashion Club. Maureen brings over 20 years of experience in retail, and she has been a leader on the e-commerce channel for Bare Necessities. She's a senior VP. She also was at Federated, Wacol, and Lord & Taylor, so she brings a tremendous amount of information and background from the intimate apparel industry, and really adds a lot of validity to the conversation tonight. And Rachel Weingarten, who's a great friend of the Bromley Group and has worked with us very closely. Rachel brings a very different kind of perspective. She's an author of 3 books. She is a contributing editor to TV shows such as Good Morning America and The Today Show. She writes on CNN, Parade.com, Because Style, Esquire, USA Today, Cranes. So she brings a lot of experience both from the journalist side of the business and also as a style expert on the other side of the business. And last but definitely not least, we have Michelle Lockhart. She's with a fabulous agency, LaForce and Stevens. I love them, work with them. And also Michelle works with Wacol. She has been in PR for over 8 years, and she has worked on such brands as Pinkberry and Kipling and Barbie, in addition to Wacol, and also Sperry Topsider. So I think we have a very interesting panel here tonight with a lot of different expertise, and I'd like to turn the panel over first to Megan to talk a little bit about the Run-Through, which is her company, and to tell you a little bit about how they operate. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go through each of the panelists. They're going to talk a little bit about their own particular expertise, and then we'll turn it over to some Q&A. Megan, thank you.
Okay, I was told to bring this close. Hi, I'm Megan. I'm one of the co-founders of the Run-Through, which essentially in the most simplest forms is an online digital showroom that the media, and media meaning editors, stylists, digital media, can connect with designers. And so I think we have, okay, so we can go to slide 2. So our approach to PR, which is really just sort of one part of what we do as a business, but our approach is we sat on the media side for so long. I was a stylist assistant for Italian Vogue for 2 years. I was the accessories director at W Magazine for 5 years, and then the accessories director at InStyle. And I literally covered 4,000 designers with one other person, just in my market. And I was bombarded every day. My job was to know this market, but I was bombarded with emails, with lookbooks, whether it was a PDF or it was a paper lookbook. And then I also had to get in a cab, and I had to go to every showroom in New York. I had to fly to Milan and Paris and go to all of the shows, which is really amazing and glamorous when you check it off your list, but when you're doing it, it's really hard to cover your market because you have to know everything that exists out there. And if I miss it as an editor, I'm not good at my job. So the initial idea of the run-through, a place where you have a digital showroom, you can streamline this process, was I could have all of you pitching to me all day long, but what if I needed a neon-trimmed black lace bra for an Italian Vogue shoot? Then what am I going to do? It's all out of memory. So on a product level, what we've done is we've created a showroom that is completely searchable, and an editor, a stylist, we have them all over the world. We have about 500 members. We vet all of them. So if you are a designer coming on board, I could say to you, we have the top tier media. If we're telling the top tier media, you want to come and see our designers, we'll tell you we have the best designers in the world, and they're 100% searchable, and you can find them in 2 seconds. So we solved our problem. I know I'm going off of my PowerPoint, but some of the basic tools, so that's like the basic, value prop is we're going to connect you with them, and we're going to connect them with you. Along the way, though, we're a tech company. So I founded this with a friend who is actually a former editor from W, who got her MBA in finance and also worked in tech for about 8 years, launched T Magazine online, and we came together to solve this problem. And so some of the tools that we have are things like virtual lookbooks. So if all of you wanted to pitch me something, well, if I'm at W, you might pitch me one thing, but if I'm at InStyle, you might pitch me something else, and if I'm a blogger, you might pitch me something completely different. So all of our software tools, like a virtual lookbook, can be customized in real time. You can put together something completely special just for me in 2 seconds. Actually, it's probably more like 90 seconds, but, and I don't even think we need this last page, but in terms of how we work with our brands, we make it the easiest thing, the easiest process possible. So on my side as an editor, I had a really hard time communicating and working with designers, but designers, the last thing they want to think about is, okay, so we're on a website and we have to upload stuff, and then we have to, like, what is that? Am I going onto a WordPress site, and what am I creating here? So we actually do all the work for our brands. So we just take images, a line sheet, we upload everything, we tag it from an editor's perspective. So I'm going to tag something film noir. If I see Marc Jacobs show, and then I see LV, and then I see Balenciaga, and a trend is forming, our team of editors audits the collections to make sure that is noir, is 60s, is cowboy, is fringe, everything somebody from the media could need. So that's the basic gist of what it is. And there's a lot of info on our landing page if you just want to kind of see more of the basics.
Thank you. From a PR point of view as an agency, what I think the run-through has done is made something that is extremely efficient and easy to use and gains access globally for brands. And I think that's a really very important thing, because today it isn't about thinking local, it is global. And so I think that this new model is really an excellent new model to consider. Maureen.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming.
Maureen, wait,
Are
hold
you
on one
okay?
second, Maureen. We're going to
That's
put
okay, I have
you
a little
up there.
preamble.
But round of applause. Okay, Maureen brought the the sexiest presentation I've
Yes,
seen.
and there's audience participation too. So. Okay, so first, thank you all for coming. It's really great to see everyone here. So I'm really, as I was preparing to come here tonight, I figured I'd start this off with a story. This is a true story. The vendor who's involved is going to remain anonymous. It was not an intimate apparel vendor, but I'm going to tell you this story because it really shows the difference that a PR effort, and you could probably call this a product placement, makes a difference in the course of a business and a relationship with a vendor in literally 15 minutes is the course of action this whole thing took. So this was back in early 2006. One of my buyers and I were in an elevator. We're going up to a vendor showroom. And sadly, the year before, it had been a really tough year. Tough sales, and therefore margins were very, very small. And we were actually discussing, it's time to break up. Lovely people, but you never take those decisions lightly, but it was time to do that. So, we have our ducks on the line, figured this is how we're going to do this. The doors open to the elevator, we go into the showroom. The vendor, who also happens to be the owner of the company, greets us. We sit down at a table, start talking, and as some of you know, we always start first about here's business, this was what's going on. Last year was a very difficult year, da-da-da-da. Kind of, presented the whole situation. And then, as always, we go, tell us about your business. How did you view the past year? What was going on? And the vendor proceeds to go, well, I agree, last year was a very difficult year. But in a few weeks, this is all going to change. And I'm not supposed to tell you, but, and Karen, go to the next slide, or the second slide, go back a little bit, sorry. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Yeah,
Forward or backwards?
Go up, yeah.
Okay.
You guys are going to
There?
keep going, keep going. Ta-da!
Ah.
He was going to be on Oprah.
Okay.
Talk about catching lightning in a bottle, and it's a little bit of a term that we use, bare necessities. It was lightning in a bottle. So we quickly, in 15 minutes, went from breaking up with this vendor to writing $500,000 at retail in orders with him. So the gentleman who I did this with never really knew how close he really was to getting the axe. But lucky for him, Oprah came by. So, keep it off the Oprah slide a minute. So, the good news is, 2 weeks came and passed. He was on Oprah. We sold every bit of that $500,000 worth of product and even more. So needless to say, it was a good year for us. It was a terrific year for him. And really, it does show the difference of literally how quickly something based upon a great PR effort, and certainly one of the best ones that did exist in the time, really what the differences it can make. So, kind of roll forward, 6 years later, 2011, Oprah's gone off to do her own thing, and we at Bare Necessities are really now saying, okay, we need to create our own PR effort. How do we get Bare Necessities out there? How do we get more people aware of our brand? And how do we partner with our vendors to ultimately, really from a merchant point of view, to drive sales and to drive margin? That, for us, there's a lot of great things about PR, but at the end of the day, as Karen mentioned, is all about return on investment. And from, this merchant point of view, it's about sales and margin. So one of the first things that we did in early 2011, we recognized the fact that Bare Necessity was going to sell our 5 millionth bra in the year 2011. So, yes, and she just dropped it on the floor. But, so, we at the beginning of the year said, okay, we're going to make a big deal about this. This is a great opportunity to get Bare Necessities known, to really tell customers about us, and certainly the hopes being that if we've sold 5 million bras, it shows customers we're a valid business, and we know how to service customers, and we certainly know about intimate apparel. So what we did, you'll have to keep going, one more, and one more. Okay. So what we did was we decided, first of all, we would have a sweepstakes, and we would give away 5 $1,000 intimate apparel wardrobes, and then out of that, the grand prize winner would get a personal consultation from Jenny Altman, who was a stylist for O Magazine. So that was kind of the starting point of the whole conversation, and from there, we did a lot of supporting points behind it. So obviously posted on Facebook. Then the second piece that we did was we created a panel of lingerie experts. Jenny Altman was one of them. Ali Cudby was another one. If you go back up a minute to the previous slide, those were the ladies. And then at the same time, we asked each lady to give us, if you had $1,000 to spend on bare necessities, what would be the products that you picked? So again, a lot of interaction. We also made sure we posted it on our Facebook pages. We did a lot of PR releases, and then of course we had the power of the website and the power of emails to our customers. So the great news is we did sell our 5 millionth bra. This occurred from October to November, so we also ran it for 4 weeks. We sold our 5 millionth bra, and so here's the audience participation part. What size do you think it was? Anybody have a guess? You win. And
What was?
well, that's the question I'm going to ask you. What was the vendor? Huh? Oh, 36C. Sorry, I thought you all heard that. Vendor? Sarah, you should know this, maybe. I'm putting her on the spot. It was Chantel. Rigoche. So that's what it was. And the other question is, and kind of fun facts, if you stretched or hooked 36C bras from end to end and you started to New York, how many, where would you get on the 5 millionth one? Across the United States. Where would you land? Yeah. So Salt Lake City. See, the fun things we do with bare necessities. It was part of, those little fun facts was also how we engage people on Facebook. We also went out to a huge blogger community and got them involved about it. So really it was an all points game plan based upon really just selling our 5 millionth bra. And the great news is that it got picked up by a lot of outside publicity agencies, ended up on InStyle, About.com, She Finds. We had over hundreds of pickups on it. And the other cool part about it is, as you saw, to enter those sweepstakes, you had to like us on Facebook. This was 2011. It was all about trying to get fans on Facebook. We got tens of thousands of people to like us. Believe me, we were starting from a pretty small base, so it was a great way to energize our people, to get our name out there, and we had a lot of fun with it, as you can tell. So that's one example of what we did. The next two examples I'm going to talk about were really vendor related. The next one was in 2012 with Curvy Kate. So Curvy Kate is a UK brown lingerie manufacturer. They were making an entrance into the US. One of my buyers came to me and said, you know what, this product is great. It is for full-busted girls, but young in its look, very fashionable. The product looks like right, the price looks right, and they have this great PR opportunity. They do Star in a Bra. And what that is they encourage women, young women who are full or busted to submit themselves. It sounds sort of creepy, but it really wasn't. Submit pictures of themselves in their bathing suit or in one of their bras and say, why do I love my curves? And why would I like to have a Curvy Kate bra? So we teamed up with them. We actually teamed back to their Facebook page. We went out and said, hey, this is Curvy Kate. If you want to enter to be the next star in a bra, we linked to their Facebook page, and the people sent their pictures to them. We, again, did PR release. We did a devoted site time as well as email time. We did a lot of Facebook work on this. And then ultimately what happened is, again, this was in the space of about 4 months. There were 10 people who were selected, again, through Facebook that, okay, these are the runners-up. And then out of that, Curvy Kate chose one girl, and what she was she's the face of their campaign for the year. All of their models, actually, when you can see any Curvy Kate product anywhere, those are real girls who got selected by being Star in a Bra. So it's a really great example of how a strong idea from a vendor made it to us. Together, we talked about it and said, this is really just a creative, fun idea. And again, this is a situation where a vendor literally went from $0 to a really significant six-figure number in the space of about 8 months. So again, great partnership, great idea, and people who were just super enthused about the product. And this was the lady who won, Krista Cousins. And as you can see, she was a 30 double D. But
A lot of what Maureen is talking about is content and creativity. because now you have such an opportunity to communicate with consumers and engage them. And now because of social media, PR has so many more tentacles, and you use that very, very well.
Yeah, it's really, you know, as we sit and talk about it, and literally, as most of you know, we sit every day and talk about this stuff because we don't have brick and mortar. So a lot of the way we get people to our store is with these type of interesting PR efforts that isn't just about sell, sell, sell. It's got to have a human context to it and a reason to, would people even be interested in what it is you're doing. Then the last one, Calvin Klein. So here comes the sexy picture.
Yep.
So this all
You're ready for
started
the
in January 2012, and this literally was a picture that I took in Calvin Klein's showroom. It happened to be their 30th year anniversary of introducing Calvin Klein underwear. And lo and behold, they had these iconic pictures of Marky Mark, Kate Moss, the gentleman who's an actor who I can't pronounce his name, yeah. No, it wasn't Tyrese.
Oh,
John Hunter, thank you, that's who he is. And if you scroll one more, I think there's one more picture, there he is, that was a national ad for them.
Don't be jealous, boys.
Yeah, so, it's funny, I thought I had deleted these from my iPad when I was doing this, and like, oh my gosh, I still have them, so there they are. So again, we're sitting with Calvin, we're talking, we're going, wow, this is great, this is your 30th year anniversary, what are you all going to do about it? Well, couple things. These images, they no longer had the rights to them, so they couldn't do anything with them. So I was like, okay, that's disappointing, but you know, 30 years down the path, who would ever think that they would want to go back and use them? And then the second piece, just as those of you in the industry, they're in the middle of the switchover between Warnaco and PVH. So just tough timing. So I'm sitting there in my own kooky mind going, we need to do something about this, and we need to reinvent in black and white and talk about the 30th year anniversary of Calvin Klein. So thankfully I have a great creative director who's just as wacky as I am, and I said, we need to do this, we need to go figure out how to do that. And lo and behold, if you go to the next screen, that's what we did. And we got our own Kate Moss and Marky Mark, and went ahead and created a digital catalog done in black and white. Although you don't see this here, these did have video embedded within them, so also as you scrolled over, you could see part of the photo shoot going on, and then it would stop, and then you could click and go shop the product. This was something we did PR release about, bloggers, did lots of Facebook activity, put it on our site, tons of email. Because it was the 30th anniversary of Calvin, and because really Calvin had done nothing with it, we really, this was a home run for us. And again, I will say for the 2 weeks that this effort ran, we doubled our Calvin Klein business. So great return on investment. And again, just a lot of fun and a really great opportunity. So, you know, it's just a couple examples of what we've done. It's something we do all the time. Many of the vendors in the room walk home and work with Chantel and the people of Eve and really doing these same type of efforts. So that's what we do, and thank you, and thanks for listening, guys.
You brought up so many good points in that presentation, Maureen, and really, you know, the creativity, the bringing together a creative direction and creative people, and the conversation internally is so important. You know, your companies have young people, older people, you're tapped into all kinds of demographics. Take advantage of that. What moves them? What makes them interact? You know, creating new and exciting ways for them to be able to really connect to your brand. And I mean, there's really Bare Necessities. Who was Bare Necessities, right? I mean, and now look at, I mean, it's like, when I think to go shop online, I think of Bare Necessities. You've done so many great things. So
It's been a lot of fun.
congratulations. It's really, really fabulous. And next we have Rachel Weingarten, who brings another completely fabulous insight into marketing and public relations.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen. And thank you all. I think part of what I bring to this is I'm a piece of this giant food chain. You know, I feel very strongly about relationships in business. And when Karen first asked me, could I be on this panel, I thought, what am I going to say? You know, I say it. And then I realized people might not realize that here is a brand, here is a product, here's a consumer. I talk to the consumers, and if I don't have a great relationship with the company, they aren't ultimately going to talk to the people who are going to buy their products. So I've always been the kind of person, if I go shopping and you're buying the wrong thing, I'll kind of pull you over and say, no, buy this one instead. I work really hard to have that relationship with my readers. And if I steer them wrong, they will tell me very vocally, this is not the brand for me, this isn't what I'm doing. So I write a couple of weekly columns, and I also maintain a pretty active presence on social media. And I feel, again, sometimes I discover things, and sometimes I have these great relationships with the PR companies, and I say, tell me about this, or these are what my readers are looking for. This is what people want to hear more about. And sometimes what happens is kind of what happens on the next slide. It then becomes a really interactive relationship where I can go back to my readers and I can say, hey, I want to talk about something. And maybe what I want to talk about is a brand, or maybe I have a question for them. And you have a company that maybe was once on a pedestal far away from the consumer, and it's sort of this conduit where you can solicit feedback, you can get the immediate results, you can talk to them and have a conversation because they kind of trust me. One thing that has happened though is in the past few years there's been this wild west of content. Blogs sprouted up, and some were great writers, and some people just kind of wanted to do that swag grab. How much can I take? How much can I just get out of this process? And PR had to sort of reinvent itself again, and I believe very strongly with these relationships, and try to understand, okay, how are we going to give our message out there without diluting everything that we are? Because you do see so much of that. The same thing over and over and over. You have to keep telling different stories, and that's been really invaluable to me. Another thing I think people might not realize, it used to be very much the name recognition. You write for one publication, you have this pedigree, but I think people have to sort of think in a different way. I'm a freelancer. I contribute regularly to some publications, but I also write for a couple of different places. So if Karen or someone in her great shop will tell me about someone, it can appear in 4 or 5 articles over 4 or 5 months. So we have this great relationship, and I have it in mind. Again, it's integrity. If it was a crappy brand, I wouldn't be writing about it, I wouldn't be believing in it. But if you're telling the right PR story, I'm your brand evangelist. So I'm not just somebody who's writing about something. Bare necessities, love. I will tell anyone who will listen, go care. But you could. No, I cannot be bought. The next slide, please.
Is that one?
Yeah. So for instance, I have 2 stories. One actually involves a shoe brand. Karen had mentioned that they were working with a certain shoe company, and she said, are you going to the shows for Fashion Week? And I said, yeah, and she suggested, oh, these are the shoes. And I kind of said, okay, but I didn't think I'd wear them. They became a different story. I wore them. And suddenly, everybody at the events I was going to wanted to know what was on my feet. I was pretty brave. I was wearing, I don't know if I can mention the brand.
I think so.
Okay. It was Clark's shoes, and I love Clark's shoes, but I suddenly looked at them really differently because they were clever, they were of the moment, and I was getting attention at Fashion Week for wearing them. So suddenly my stories became, I was at Fashion Week and everybody was looking at my feet, in my shoes that weren't ridiculously expensive. So I got to tell America about this one very cute pair of shoes. There's a brow product that I love. There's a company called IT Cosmetics. Nobody represents them here, I don't think. But it was just such an interesting brand that I wanted to know more about them. So I started writing about them, and then people write back to me on Facebook, email. I always encourage this kind of feedback. There's no longer the person in their ivory tower. There's I'm accessible, you can talk to me. And I suddenly feel like, wow, I should get royalties from this company from just how much I love them and talk about them. So in this kind of story, it's really the trust. Do you trust me to tell you what to buy? Well, I take that really seriously. So the PR story becomes more than just, here's a brand, can you write about it? It's, here's a brand, can you believe in it? And can you then tell your readers why? You know, I'm not just going to say, okay, here it is. The story may look simple, but if I haven't tried it, I get hate mail. Like, oh my God, Rachel, why did you tell me to buy this? Or, I love it, you know, the really nice email feedback. I got a letter from an op-ed I wrote from somebody who was 91 years old. And he said that he asked his grandson to borrow his computer and write it up because I wrote about a product and an occurrence that really moved him. So if you're reaching people, it's a different way of telling your story. You know, I rely, when you were talking about suddenly, oh my God, I can look at film noir and I can find, because I spend so much time Googling stuff or walking around where
There's
I
a million
travel.
places to find
A million
product.
places. So suddenly I heard that because, you know, you have these quirky ideas, you want to tie it in, and you're going to help me do it. So it's like, wow, I have an unpaid assistant. Excellent.
We've heard that before. We say we're the virtual assistant.
I know. If you can get, oh, you're on the next slide. I wrote a book a couple of years ago called Hello Gorgeous, Beauty Products in America, 40s through 60s. It's a long title. And I'll brag, the New York Public Library chose it as one of their books of the year. And for me, what was really interesting, actually, if you look at the opening credits of Mad Men, you can see pages of my book slipping through. Yeah, it is cool.
That's very cool.
Very cool.
Yes. When it comes back in a couple of weeks, look. What was interesting for me about the 40s, 50s, and 60s was it was a time where women's spending power changed. It went from being about shopping, you know, for the family to shopping for themselves. That suddenly changed. But what hasn't changed about advertising, and for me at least the biggest difference between PR and advertising, every single advertisement in every single magazine is identical. You're going to pick up the back cover and you're going to see that same very pretty, beautifully photographed ad, but it's identical. You know, so unless you're just trying to catch someone's eye, it's the same thing. But when you have a relationship with the company and when you have a relationship with that journalist, you're able to collaborate on a story and you're doing something different. And hopefully, you know, relating to people. I love things. I like to shop, but I like to tell people about it too. Karen, the next slide, please.
Next slide. Is that it?
Yes. Yeah. I did a story for Esquire earlier this year. I have a pretty strong background in the fashion industry. So it kind of hurt me that so much production was moving out of New York. So what also happens in the PR story is if there's a cause that you believe in, so let's say somebody is telling you about this, you know, the fashion industry, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the name, go through the article, yikes. You can draw attention to causes.
Ellie Tahar?
Well, Ellie Tahar was having his anniversary and he was trying to raise awareness for the fashion district and trying to bring people back and bring manufacturers back. So I can sort of sneak that in too. You know, the Accessories Council is very, very strong in promoting USA-made products. 2 years ago, they did an event for USA-made products, and that was something that hit me really strongly because I feel so strongly, let's try to give people jobs here, you know, and there was that whole thing, well, it has to be from Milan, it has to be from Paris, and suddenly everything was stylish again. So the Accessories Council did a great job of promoting the USA Made Pride because it was something I believe in, and every chance I get, I'll include it in an article. This whole initiative to buy things that are made here. So suddenly it was like, wow, they pitched me 2 years ago, went to this event, saw the way that the motion to create things here changed, and it stayed with me, and it went into an article I did this past fall. The next slide, please. Another story would be I did something with creative nail design, which I kind of knew about, but I never really knew about the brand. And I suddenly got to meet the women behind the brand. Their PR team just did the most amazing job of getting me to understand it's not just colors. And I suddenly tapped into this. We did this adorable giveaway, 62 shades, and I cannot believe the engagement that came back to me. And what people kept saying was, this is my favorite brand, but they don't know how to get to the brand. But because I was able to relate to them and because they were telling such a great story, I'm able to put that into articles. So it isn't just, I'm not going to pretend that I didn't get excited last week. I was away all day. I came home, my door, I couldn't get in from all the boxes. But it's always a lot of work to go through and say, okay, this is a really great product. How are they presenting it? I'm not going to write about something if I haven't actually tried it because people call you on it. So when you go to a journalist and when you talk to them and when you tell them about this brand, it's hard work because, Megan said she was working with 4,000 different brands. It's really hard, but you also have to understand that the consumer is being hit by those 4,000 brands as well. So if you are getting to the journalists, if you're getting to the writers, if you're getting the story out there, you're automatically getting their loyalty as well. Or the ire of people who might not like what they're writing. And then the next slide is, I think that what happens in a great PR relationship, and I interact with a lot of journalists. I know we gripe about a lot of things, but in many ways we could not do our jobs without this fantastic interaction because you create the relationships, you foster trust, you get that personal recommendation. I've always been the kind of person who people came to and asked, what should I buy, how much should I spend? But now I listen to my readers, and I feel I take it so seriously. I know what they're going to respond to. So I can go to a publicist and I can say, no, my reader's not going to believe that. Or tell me the story behind the company. And one of the most exciting things for me is I love hearing about the people behind a brand. And I love telling my readers about that too. And that only happens when you have that understanding and relationship and partnership. I'm more excited with Bare Necessities now. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I remember that. Suddenly it's more alive and it doesn't just become a rack in a store. It becomes something really fun and something you might want to be part of. So for me, it's really the recognition. And guess what? It really drives sales if you're doing it right, which it sounds like you guys are. So that's what I thought.
Thank you, Rachel. Credibility is just so key too. I mean, the credibility of your relationships with the media world, your credibility with your product, the credibility with your buyers. Every aspect of, we all try to embrace that as part of our life, I think. And I think in terms of delivering product, it is so important. So many things that you said are just really incredible. I think the connection also to the consumer, and I think you're hearing this over and over again, that the connection to the consumer via social media, via public relations, via events, via your relationship with the media is just so key in how much success you're going to have with your brand and your product. So Michelle, we'd like to hear from you now, and you represent one of our esteemed members of the board and one of the greatest brands out there today in intimate apparel, Wacoal, so please share.
Hi everyone. So as Karen mentioned, I am with LaForce & Stevens, handling the PR for Wacoal. I've been at LaForce & Stevens for a little over 4 years now, but working with Wacoal for about 2.5. So just really want to go through some top line things that we've been doing for Wacoal lately to really raise their awareness in the media, get consumer attention. So the basics, you can go to the next slide. The basics that we're doing day in and day out for the brand is pitching the media, getting coverage on the product that's out in the market. So, you know, intimate apparel in general, it's not covered as often as just say, you know, ready-to-wear shoes, handbags. So it's really finding stories to get your product out there. So you're always promoting the current collections. So for example, the magazines, you know, they're not covering it in every book. So it's making sure you're aware of what issues that in style their bra issue is, or People Style Watch, or Women's Health, whatever it is. There's some examples up there. Just making sure you're aware of these opportunities and pitching your collection. So, you know, they're working 3 months out, you know, keeping them top of mind and what you have coming up for the season. So, you know, right now we're gearing up to pitch fall 2014. So keeping the constant conversation to, you know, see what they're working on for the market and what would be a fit. You know, and then for the blogs and the websites, newspapers, on air, you know, coming up with different angles to make your product relevant, you know, tying in what's happening with pop culture and seasons. So award season, for example, you know, it's talking about what the stars wore underneath their dresses, you know, shapewear, strapless bras, you know, one strap shoulders, whatever it may be, or Valentine's Day, summer, you know, what to wear with the strapless dress, with the halter dress. Just really looking at what's coming down the pike and tying your product into it. So besides media outreach, what we're doing day in and day out, you know, it's coming up with different programs, partnerships, collaborations that keep the brand fresh, relevant, in the news, keeping them top of mind, making them interesting for consumers and media. So what we're working on right now is a partnership with author Holly Jacobs. So Wacol, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but has a really big Fit for the Cure program for 14 years now, which has been developed to get, you know, women fit, so you're wearing the proper size bra, but also supporting breast health and, you know, donating money to Susan G. Komen. You know, it's a huge initiative for the brand. And we saw that this author, Holly Jacobs, was coming out with a book to tell her story about going through breast cancer and, you know, educating women on what really happens. So we thought it was a natural fit for us to partner together and support her book tour. You know, we also created a silver strap. Her book is called Silver Linings, so making something product related to help promote the partnership. So, you know, we're kicking off with an in-store event, Macy's, Herald Square tomorrow, so you're all invited. It's from 6 to 8 to meet Holly and get fit and, you know, learn about her story and learn about the Wacol Fit program, so that's happening. So that's one thing that we're doing for the brand. Next. And another thing is blogger partnerships and stylist partnerships. You know, the blogging community, it's a beast in its own. There's new bloggers coming out every day, so you know, it's partnering with them in a smart way, you know, not just throwing money and product at everyone who comes through your door, but doing it in a way that makes sense. So Wacol, for one example, last year was coming out with a smooth complexion line. So it was shapewear and bras and underwear that was 4 different shades for 4 different skin tones. And we thought, let's partner with bloggers that represent each skin tone. You know, they're all launching it together. You know, they do a post, they promote on social, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, etc., creating a strong program that makes sense. You know, and it's real. It's this real women that I need to find something that matches my skin tone, and these girls were perfect examples of how to use that. So we really look deep into who has a good reach, who really makes sense for the brand. You know, we did all shapes and sizes, from someone that was a size 0 to, you know, size 16. So we're hitting all different audiences and consumers at the same time. And next is really leveraging experts in your brand. So, you know, Wacol, we have amazing fit consultants. We have amazing, you know, brand representatives that can speak to fit and bras in the collection. So one example here is Refinery 29. So Refinery 29 is a huge website for women that's growing every single month. And the importance of relationships between us and media is, you know, we saw that this editor came on, she was market director, and we were like, we need to get this woman fit because she's going to be covering the market for this huge site. we need to get her fit by a Wackle fit consultant so she can experience the brand. We did that. A couple weeks later, our phones rang. She's doing this huge bra story, and she was looking for experts to speak to different topics. So we were luckily able to call one of our great experts with the company, and in turn, we got great coverage, several styles, lots of quotes through a story that they ran. So that's one example. And you can go to the next. And the next is the trade. So along with consumer outlets and keeping the buyers up to date, it's also the trade, the business, competitors, etc. So really looking at what we have coming down the pike that can be interesting for the trade media. So one example we just did was a new campaign that Wackle is launching, and working with Women's Wear Daily to cover that launch and talk about the campaign, the reasons behind it. So that was successful. And next, our fit consultants. So Wackle has a very large range of fit consultants across the country in retails that are constantly fitting consumers, making sure that they're wearing the right fitting bra. And we do programs twice a year called Fit for the Cure, where you go in store, you get fit, and money is donated to Susan G. Komen. So we've done these for 14 years, and then part of our role is when these Fit for the Cure programs are happening, we're promoting these events with regional media. So newspapers, calendar listings, and also TV. So a big thing is with our fit experts is getting them on regional broadcast and talking about the importance of getting fit, as well as promoting the event and the Fit for the Cure initiative. A big thing lately, the last several months, was really like wearing the proper size bra. That's a big topic now because a lot of women, they're wearing the same bra size for years and years, and they don't understand that, you should be getting fit because things change. If you gain or lose weight, have a baby, etc., it's an important part to make sure you're wearing the right size bra. So that's a major program for the brand, and that's how we support it with the consultants and our regional events to get it through the press. So that's really the gist of what we do, what we've done for the last several months. So that's about it.
That's great. Thank you very much, Michelle. One of the things that I think is important to point out is a company like Wackle has a fairly sizable budget. They have been in business a long time. Fit for the Cure, to your point, has been around for several years, and it was one of the first out there during October that really took hold and is still there, which is amazing. But what if you're a new brand and you have a small budget? How do you do that? I think we have some people in the audience that are launching brands today. What would you do?
I think the biggest thing is relationship building with press. LaForce and Stevens, we work with huge companies like Wackle, but we also work with small emerging brands. And what we've noticed lately is we just have to be scrappy. Meeting as many people in the industry as you can, even if it's you're going to their desk. We're bringing designers to people's desks so they don't even have to leave their office, and you can just sit there and you can talk about yourself, your brand, what you have coming up, what makes you different, and pitching every way possible. It's if you can get online press and there's click-throughs to your site, that's great. That will build your business, and connecting with these editors is a great tool to, because if they know you personally now, then they'll cover you more than if they don't even know who you are and you're just an email in their inbox. So it's really important to make those relationships and get your name out there.
Thank you. So first I want to have a round of applause for our fantastic panel tonight. And then I'd like to ask the audience if you have any questions for the panel. Yes?
A good question for Michelle. Your 30-second elevator pitch, you're with the CEO of a privately held company, 750 million in sales, does not do PR.
Does not do PR, and trying to get them to do PR. Well, I think if you don't have PR, you're not getting your product into the media, which is what consumers are reading, And if your product, you know, if it's a story on 15 bras and you're never going to be in these stories, you know, it's a less of a chance for a consumer to know you're out there. And we're seeing so much with online, especially like click-throughs and buying right away. Everyone's online now. Everyone's on their iPad. Everyone's shopping mobile and, you know, reading these sites. So if you don't have that opportunity to get yourself out there, you know, you're missing a major, you know, consumer audience that can buy right away from that editorial story.
So I have a question for you. What is your goal? If you're already at 750 million, what's your goal?
Billion.
A billion?
Yeah.
Okay. And you've done this without any PR? Congratulations.
That's great.
So you have a long way to go.
It will help you grow.
You could double.
Continue to grow, yeah.
You could double that. So that's very interesting. Okay. How have you done it? That's interesting.
Privately held company with its own internal marketing team, but there's relationships with one in particular advertising agency, but not a strong PR presence, not a strong digital presence. Social is a bit of a dirty word. There's concern about being exposed because flying below the radar and being at that volume, there's a certain amount of power that comes from that privacy that you don't necessarily want to expose.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, you can go in so many directions with your program. You can do something as simple as just product placement, which is what we do every single day. It's just getting the product out there, covered in magazines, blogs, broadcasts, etc. You know, that's the basics. And you can do something as big as we're doing collaborations and partnerships, you know, things that we're doing with Walkhole. So, you know, it's really, you know, what your goals are and, you know, what you're looking for. But
But if you have in-house marketing team, that is essentially they're doing PR. So I think
to a certain extent, but certainly nothing cutting edge, certainly nothing that's really leveraging what's going on in social, and certainly nothing that's related to partnerships. Very suspicious, very.
you could approach it like a startup. When we look at things that we want to do, but we're like, you know what, we want to stay within the confines of our team of 10 people, get scrappy and give your marketing team an opportunity. Like, we love to do, like, what if somebody held a gun to your head and they were like, you have 30 days to live, and if you do this one thing, you will survive. Like, we have fun with it, we make it a game, and Allison's sitting here. Allison's our social media girl who never knew she could or wanted to do it until she started killing it. But there's no hierarchy in I could be the CEO, but I also could be the assistant when it comes to like the tech team. It doesn't matter. We get in a room together and we say, what is the end goal? We have a product and we want more users. It does not matter if you're Uber or you're a bra company or you're a car company. Get the juices flowing and see if you can do it internally. And if you can, that's amazing, because you're gonna have those employees with you forever. So I say try it scrappy, try it with like amazing ideas, empowering your team. And then if things start to work, or you feel like, you know what, they're actually more comfortable about social now. So we actually want to push towards social, and we're going to look to outsource part of that.
I think one thing I'd like to add to that, because we've definitely been in this position as an agency where there is resistance from the top because of control of brand. And I think that part of that is a learning and an education and training top management to understand. And so you do it in steps, and you don't just do it all out at once. So you take it little bits at a time, and you show your success along the way. And I think that's a very good way to approach.
So reversing the relationship model from trying to have relationships with editors and then trying to have a relationship with the top management. So that-
Exactly. Top management is so key. You know, one of the things that one of the accounts we had many years ago was the Intimate Apparel Council, which was something I'm sure several people here know. But one of the things that was the goal of that was to make top management at retail comfortable with walking through the intimate apparel department. And when we created Lingerie Week, the idea of that was not even so much as the consumer, but top management, to create events and fun and get them to feel comfortable to go into the intimate apparel department. So I think, you know, creating that comfort for your top management and speaking their language in a way that they understand and see the value of what that could be, and then taking it in the steps that makes them comfortable, because it's your company. That really is, I think, very key. You need buy-in from the top. PR cannot function without buy-in from the top. We know that.
I wanted to add one thing. You cannot always be guaranteed friendly media. So you're right, and the company is right to be cautious. But something that's happened now is there's also private content and content creation. And that might be a way to ease into it. You work with writers, you work with a PR company, you create your own magazine or private, whatever it is, and see the reaction you get and seed your audience. And then you take it back to the higher ups and you say, wow, this really works. It might be time to go even bigger. But in this way, you're holding their hand through the process. You're saying, we control all of this right now before we can get even bigger. So maybe that's another way to even look into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a very good point, because today you can create your own content. There was a time when you couldn't. Now you can. And
But do it well.
you can control the content.
Do it
You
really
should
well.
hire a professional like Rachel to create the content seriously, because, you know, it's something that, again, it's a dialogue, it's a conversation with the consumer. You want to have credibility. You want to be careful of the words that you're putting out there and the way that you're positioning your brand. So it's very important to have the right team together to help you do that and go the next step. Yes?
So my question was going to bounce back to Megan, but so you were mentioning how your emerging designers who are these really small teams, you're urging them to go to desk sides and just get in front of the editor's face. And I thought it would be cool for Megan to share a little bit more about how the run-through platform allows for that exposure on a 24/7 basis for these small emerging. Kind of how that desk side process works and kind of what that.
Well, like if we were working in the past with a LaForce or an agency and we had a relationship and you brought somebody to my office, first of all, I loved desk side. I hate the word, but I didn't have to go anywhere. I literally didn't have to get a cab. This was pre-Uber when I was there, so I didn't have to like deal with the whole thing. And you're gonna bring somebody with you for me to meet the actual designer, and I wanted to meet them because some of my oldest friends now are designers. So I totally agree. That's like one of the best things you can do. We tell our emerging designers, like, yeah, you don't have an in-house PR team like Michael Kors. You don't have an ad budget like them. Own what you have, which is like, you're new, and that's currency in a lot of ways. Even if it's a new product. So let's say it's like a new, I just love crazy lingerie, so let's just say you have like a whole new category of like,
Awesome.
we have like some weird stuff on our site that is not wearable, but it works for stylists. But like use what you have, whatever story that is. It's news, whatever form it comes in. And I mean, we like to reiterate the same thing, like if you're emerging, it's okay, tell them that, because you know what, I would probably take the appointment with you if you said, hey, we have this emerging designer in town, and you know, they want to stop by for 10 minutes, they want to show you 5 pieces, and then we're out of there. And we tell our designers to say the same thing, like you're going to be meeting with somebody that has really limited amount of time. Make it so easy for them. But yeah, I think it's just about chipping away at the beginning and just sort of like building those relationships, and then those sort of grow over time.
I think too, you're meeting with experts in the field that, to your point, like you work with thousands and thousands of brands, and it's great advice that you can get too. One of our footwear designers we're working with, that's what we're doing with him, and he's getting advice from like Harper's Bazaar and, et cetera, all these senior accessories editors, and it's like real advice that he's like, wow, like this is probably the best thing that like we've done, because it's really helping my business. So
yeah, it's similar to retailers from what we hear from our brands too, is that you have a meeting, take the opportunity, if you have one ask, like, yeah, I'm going to show my collection, but if you have one ask, like, what do you think of my price point? Or what are your 2 favorite pieces? Ask that stuff, no matter who, if it's a buyer or if it's media. And those are your own mini focus groups. No matter how big or small your brand is, it's really awesome feedback to get, and then you bring it back to your team, and you can build off of it, you can throw whatever you don't want away. But it's like amazing opportunities to get free consultations.
Yeah, desk sides is something that we do often, and it is an incredible way to get information, create relationships, get great feedback. It's just a wonderful way to introduce a brand new brand, and an ongoing brand too with new products. So, more. I know. Are there other questions also? Yes, Roz.
Sorry. I deal with a lot of startup companies. Ladies, you're all with big brands. Now, 2 designers come in and this is their dream. They have X amount of money. They want you to they are not a brand. They want you to make them a brand. How do you get them there?
Well, I am a startup, so I'm in the same place that a lot of our brands are. So about 70% of our brands are emerging. The reason 30% is like established, like the Michael Kors and Gucci. And actually for the media, just within our platform, emerging is actually the most exciting for them in a lot of ways, because it's new, it's fun, but then they need their established brands. So if somebody came to me, which this literally happens every day, and is like, what do I do? It actually is exactly what we were talking about, which is you have a very limited budget. So what you're going to look at is, okay, what do you want? Generally, you want some sort of exposure. You want somebody in the world to know the name of your brand. So that, therefore, it needs to be seen. Whether it's online, it's in a print publication, people are talking about it. You want people to say the word. So it's like one of these things like, oh, all of a sudden you know what Uber is. Like, how can you not at this point? I think it's about the awareness and then knowing sort of what, allowing yourself to not have the highest of expectations. Like, you're not building a brand in a week. It's taking decades. So what are those micro milestones to reach? And that's what we talk about a lot is, okay, so there's different things you can do. You can meet with the media. But if you're gonna go meet with the media, you should really look at your product, this ring, and I should know, okay, this is based on the price point, based on the aesthetic, this is actually really good for departures, in style, maybe not who, what, where, but I like it. I love refinery. I'm probably not going to get a lot of sales off it, but I'm going to get people knowing the name of this. And again, the chipping away thing, there's too many media outlets in the world. So I had 4,000 designers, but I can tell you there's hundreds of Megans from InStyle. So how do you decide to even come and do a desk side with me? You have to know that whoever I'm reaching is worth it to your brand, that this makes sense for. So that's what we look at. I would say let's say this designer is this ring designer, and I would say, okay, I would tell you what I recommend as an editor, as an expert in my part of the field. I would say target these 20 outlets and make sure that you understand that all 20 outlets aren't going to be like tomorrow, oh my God, you're the most amazing thing. You're going to work it. You're going to take them to coffee. You're going to make sure, and at the end of the day, it's still about the product. So if the product isn't good, it's going to be hard. So you have to start with an amazing product at the end of the day. Yeah.
Maureen, I'd like to ask you, because, you know, as a retailer, more or less an e-tailer, buyer, new brands, how do you, you know, Bendel's used to have a day when they would see all the new brands. How do you see new brands?
Well, I think your point about at the end of the day, it is all about the product. Our conversations, you know, it's very easy, especially as you get bigger and bigger as a company, to lose focus on the product and start working about, you know, all the deals and the margins and the sales and all of that. And one of our catchphrases is, that's great, set that all aside, especially because we are e-commerce only. And it really, the product itself has to speak for itself, stand for itself, come across the line for itself, or have the story that makes it meaningful. And you know, we daily, and you know, I will tell you even today, there's 2 brands who we're getting very close to help launching them because the product is unique, what they're offering is different, and the people they have connected to it have a real value to who they are. One of them we were actually talking about today, and I went to my CMO and said, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this person? And is this something you think we can make a big deal of? So it's the product first, for sure, because of the product. Being online retailers, and especially we're all intimate apparel mavens, it's a lot about, you have to really believe in your product. We try a lot of our product on, or just don't buy anything. We try it on because we don't want it all coming back to us.
Exactly.
We've got to be able to talk about it and believe it with conviction. So it really starts with the product first. And if we believe in the product, Kirby Kate's a great example. We didn't know who they were. I called Ellen Lewis to get the contact number. I was like, how do I get hold of these people? Who are they? You know, and then it really started with going, and we said, great, send us, you know, 10 different bras in these different sizes. And we had girls in the office try them on because then we could believe it and say, this is great product for the price that it is. Now let's get behind this brand and go do something with it. And that's really how that whole story was born.
And I think from a PR agency point of view, we do the same thing. I'm sure that James and Leslie, sorry, you know, do the same thing. I mean, we'll look at product and say, okay, do we want to represent this product? Because we have to stand behind the brands that we represent. So it's very important that the brand has credibility, that the product is great, and that what we want to talk about really does deliver. So I think it's really important. That's key, product. It is absolutely essential.
I just want to add one thing. I'm not going to talk from a branding perspective, but that's something I do, and I teach branding at NYU on the graduate level. And if I have to tell people, you have 30 seconds to create this brand. Consistently pay attention to what do you want to be remembered for, and what's the last thing you want to be remembered for. And you can sit there and pull together your brand based on that, you know, and then get to tell the bigger story, everything else that goes with it.
Yeah, excellent. That's excellent. Any more questions from the audience? Ed, I know you have a question, Ed. You're not there.
I got a question
Okay.
for Maureen. So you mentioned Kirby Kate. You saw them, you didn't know where to contact them. So let me ask you this question. Where did you hear about it?
Actually, it was on Ellen Lewis's blog, to be very honest. Which I read that every single day and looked at it, and coincidentally, the owner of the company at the same time have fallen across it because I think he never goes to sleep and he's always on the internet. And he sent me, who are these people? Go find them. I was like, it's very funny because I actually called somebody yesterday about giving me their number because I couldn't figure out where to get a hold of them. But it's like anything else to finding new people. You're online. I read a lot. I read a lot of fashion magazines. I'm online all the time. read industry magazines, industry blogs. Ellen, as I said, I read every single day because she's out there covering soup to nuts from small vendors to very large vendors. And that's also a piece of what gets your foot in the door. And if nothing else, there are many brands. I'm like, that's interesting. I'm going to tuck it away, and then you know what? They pop up again. They pop up again, and then we go, you know what? There's something going on here. We keep seeing and hearing about this vendor. Let's go talk to them and let's go find out what this is. And is it something that really is a unique product that we should be carrying to our website and should be adding to offer to our customers?
I'm going to add something again. From a writer's perspective, we all sit around and gripe. Okay, this is what PR companies should be doing, shouldn't be doing. The number one thing that everybody gripes about is, how do we get in touch with this company? You know, updating your PR contacts, updating if anyone's representing you, updating any of these things.
Give a phone number.
Put it
Silly
out
that
there.
sounds. Give a
Put
phone
it on
number.
every page if you can.
Give a
Have
website.
box.
Yeah.
Have a way for people to
One
get in
thing
touch.
I hate too now, and when I was as an editor, is all the small brands would have, you know, that like the contact at or info at or it's a person is going somewhere, but I can't tell you how many times I would Google like, I don't know, a riding boot company because Alex White at W needed distressed riding boots and it was going to kill me. I was on a scavenger hunt and I'm literally lost. It's like all I see is some customer service for a consumer, which is great, but I literally am never going to be able to call you in or have a relationship with you because I don't know how to reach you.
And you give up. You stop
Yeah.
caring. It's like, you know what, if you don't care about us, we just stop caring.
Yeah.
From a e-tailer point of view, guess what? I am all about the internet and emailing, but at the end of the day, when I have my 2 minutes and I'm going to go figure out where this vendor is, I would rather just pick up the phone than, okay, now I got to find the website, now I got to send it to some anonymous thing. I want to talk to somebody because I want to have a conversation. To sit and type it all in the email is too much. We need this dialogue and back and forth. So
But the other thing is, if they can't reach you, they'll tell the world. If they can't reach your company, they'll tell Twitter. You know, X company sucks. So
certainly from a consumer point of view,
yeah,
they
so you
will
want to
tell
have
you
as
that in a
many
minute.
ways. I also like picking up the phone sometimes. It's like just
Again, especially
Not
if you're
always.
starting out and as a new brand, that is part of that interaction. To your point, that is, especially with us, if we're interested, we're probably going to come talk to you, and then we can have that dialogue. And to your point, ask the question: what are the 2 things you like about my brand? What do you think I'm too expensive? That's how that all starts, and that's how that relationship goes. And we say, you know what, you're not quite there yet. Here are the couple things we think. Great, they'll come back. They'll come back again. You know what? I'll talk to them again because we're somewhat vested now. We're trying to work with that brand. But especially for new brands, please give a phone number. It makes me nuts. It really does.
Okay, yeah, everybody got that? Put your phone numbers out there.
Yes.
Okay, any more questions? Okay,
I have
yes.
a question. Do most bloggers require pay now, or are they still like willing to accept free merchandise?
It depends. I mean, the world of blogging now, everyone's asking for money for different things. And from our point of view, you know, we're not gonna, well, at least what we recommend to our clients is don't pay for just a post. Don't pay for just one tweet. It's not worth it. You know, then you set an expectation of everyone, they paid so-and-so for one tweet, so I can get money from them, et cetera, et cetera. So it's being smart about who you partner with. Like our Smooth Complexion partnership, you know, we did it for the launch of a collection. We did 4 different girls. We built a program around it. It wasn't just a one and done. And that's what we're recommending lately. You know, some bloggers, like, they'll take product, and if they do a style post on it, great. And they don't expect money for it because they're getting product. But it's being smart about that as well. We hate doing like blind mailings now where it's like, oh, here's the 20 top bloggers, let's send the latest handbag out to them. And you know what? Probably one might use it because we haven't spoken to them about it. So our approach now is build your list of who you want to target. You know, go out to them and say, we're from so-and-so brand, we have this new collection of handbags. What do you think about it? If you have a style post coming up where you think this could be a fit, and you're interested in product, we'll send you something. And most likely you'll get a couple responses and something will come out of it, but it's better than sending out to 20 people blind that you've never spoken to and the product goes who knows where. So it's, brands have to be really smart about it now because there's so many bloggers out there and there's so many different asks that they're looking for. People are asking for money for everything. So it's being smart about who's the best fit for your brand, and if that's only 10 bloggers out of the whole blogging universe, then that's great because you have a target and you have a focus group. So
How would you make sure, say if I was to send a blogger like a free merchandise and they just took it and didn't write about it, how do you make sure something like that doesn't happen?
I mean, you can't require, I just say, like someone to, if you send something and they don't post about it, I mean, now it's like if you want someone to post something, like they're going to expect money because it's like, you have to post about this. If I send it to you, they're going to be like, well, then pay me. You can't force anyone to. I mean, I think you have to look at who you're working with too, not just sending it to some blogger that doesn't have a large network, hasn't worked with brands before. It's like looking at bloggers that are credible, that have worked with people before, that are smart, that are businesswomen, not just, oh, I've just started a blog for fun and I'm going to try to get as many free stuff as I can, and you never hear from them again because they got what they wanted. It's, you have to be smart and look at the right people that are credible and would not do that. If they're like, this is not my style, thank you so much for the offer, it's great, but like I will never wear it and I'm not going to take it from you. So it's really like being smart because there's so many out there and you have to make sure you're targeting ones that would not do that.
You have to do research, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you really do have to do your research and look at the blogs and look at their following and look at who they are and really think about that. I mean, I think PR is really essential now to your communications plan, and you really have to include your team members into the communication strategy. It's really, it's part of management now. It really is your voice, and controlling your voice and who you're sending your product to and what and how you want to present it. Even the way you package your product to send it out to a blogger is important. That makes a statement. We spend a lot of time on presentation because it's important, because there is so much competition out there. So, it's really important to treat your brand in a very, very special way. It's your baby. You've got to do that.
It's interesting. I was talking to a blogger out in LA last week. I'm not going to name her name, but she was saying, the word blogger, it's getting such like a negative connotation lately. She's like, we're now calling ourselves publishers. I was like, now is a new word, so we'll see if that takes off, but it was interesting.
Okay. Are there any more questions? We'll take one last question if you have one. No? Okay. Well, thank you so much to this panel. You were so great. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for coming tonight, and feel free to speak with our panel after, and thank you so much.